Welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to explore these three pens, which I bought on eBay for less than $5 for the three of them delivered. I bought them for doing ink sample testing. I've been looking for different nibs, same pen, easy to work on. I don't need anything extravagant. I just need a decent writer with some variation to it. So when I saw these complete pens for a price of kind of less than I just pay for a spare nib, I thought, what a great bargain. So here's the eBay auction. It's still up. It's towards the last half of April of 2018, so it looks like they may be around for a while. It looks like there's a ton of these available. No one can confuse these with expensive pens, but that's not their purpose. Their purpose is function and the year of the nib, so we're exploring nibs. And I'm glad to see that these nibs are available now on more and more pens, and that I just think makes all of our lives more interesting. So as we zoom into the miracle of hand movements, we'll see a 0.7, 1.1, and a 1.5. You can get these up to a 2.9, but I played around with the 1.9s and up to 2.9s, and they're just not my nib of choice. I love my Osmoroids for something that broad. You know, it's your classic Lamy Safari look, including the wire clip. But it's nice because it has that nice cap liner in there, which snaps into place at the bottom of the section with that little groove there you see, which I've been finding now on more and more pens. Yeah, nice little plastic ring between the section and the barrel, which is always good when you're assembling it. That's going to help reduce stress. So all in all, for $1.50, a decent pen, functional, nice. You know, your classic inexpensive converter, but it does have a converter, and it's a screw piston, not a push-pull, which I'm not a fan of the push-pull ones, and certainly not an aerometric one with low capacity. So I'm very, very happy. I mean, these are not perfect. There's marks on them, etc., etc., injection molding marks, but that's not what I got them for. I got them for the nib. Here we are with the nib and feed extracted with a lobster band. Works very easily. So it's easy just to pull the nib out. Here is the 1.1 that was in the pen. Here's a Jinhao number 5 bent nib. Here's a 1.5 that I got as a stub nib, just as a plain spare nib, and here's just a nib I pulled out of a 992. So it's that standard number 5 size nib, and I'm certain if you wanted to swap it with any of the other pens, like a 992 or a 991, it would work. So I think the key thing is that there are now a variety of nibs available for Chinese pens, and take advantage of them. Now we're going to see how well these write. I'm expecting you're going to write the same way as the spare nibs that I got, which I've replaced and put into some of my pens, like the 7363 and the B659 and things of that nature. So good deal. I mean, for the price of a nib, you get a full pen, and can't beat that. Here's a look at the nibs in perspective. The first one here is the one that came in the pen that I bought just for the nibs. Next to that is a bent nib, a Jinhao bent nib that I bought just for the bent nib. Then next to that is a 992 standard nib that I pulled out of the pen. And then next to that is a 1.5 nib that I got from Bobby. And I've used all of the 1.1, so I'm probably going to order some of these pens with 1.1s in it. But you can see there's slight variations in the size. I'm going to change the lighting a little bit. But all in all, I think these will all fit in any type of standard number 5 pen and work well. You know, the nib's slightly flexible, so it should adjust and adapt to the section and feed. So there's been a little bit of discussion back and forth on removing nibs and feed. So my current approach is to keep the nib like this so you're touching the sides of the nib and the section, and just do a little twisty twist and it comes out. Comes out relatively easily. And when you reinsert it, it's keyed and it's pretty easy to just push it in. You find that one spot where everything slides in and everything seats well. So it ends up being very well aligned with the feed in that section. There's this little black insert, which you can see there's a little bit of water from my cleaning, but it kind of looked that way when I first got it. But you know, this is a $1.50 pen with a nice nib in it, so it's not going to be perfect. You know, you'll see, you know, injection molding marks and things of that nature, but all the parts fit together well, and it works well as a pen. So it's always a challenge finding what ink, especially when you have a lot of ink. So I got this ink a while ago directly from Ink Art Ink, and I love the deep sea color. I had it in the traditional Robert Oster inks, but the challenge that you have is this is a big bottle, and when you're down close to halfway empty, you can't put the pen in here to draw up ink and still be able to move the converter, so you need to transfer it. So I've gone through a number of different ink sample bottles. I like 10 milliliter bottles, so I finally found these on Amazon, and they seem to work extremely well. You see they have that little interesting seal in the top, which should keep these bottles very secure, and it's a good polyethylene, so it's not going to be affected by ink. I also got some of these 5 milliliter sample bottles, which are also supposedly extremely secure. You can see they actually have a seal inside of them. Chris Sang got me into looking for these. They're also graduated along the side. So this will take 5+ milliliters, but to me, filling a pen from this is dangerous. I've tipped more than one over. So this is a little bit more secure bottle, holds more ink, so I'll be easily able to transfer inks from the bigger bottles over to these smaller bottles and be able to fill a lot of my pens that I really don't want to use eyedroppers for, and that worked well for these pens. So before I got these 3 calligraphy pens to do ink sample testing with, I've always been enamored with trying to get dip pens to work, and needless to say, my experiences have not been good. So I found this on eBay, this group here, for, you know, under $3, so I bought it, and I can't get the nibs to really work. I mean, there's a variety of nibs there. They're just not designed well. They have this little thing here that supposedly probably holds ink or whatever, but don't work. And Bobby sent me some of these dip nibs, which I've also tried in this generic dip pen holder here, and I'm not also comfortable with these. And they're all pretty much the same size from fine. There's maybe some mediums here. They're a little bit flexy, but just don't do it for me. Probably, you know, Mike Mathis has mentioned he's not really enjoyed dip pens. I do like that one Esterbrook dipless pen, but it's one pen with one nib, so it's not going to really give me that variations that I'm looking for. I've inked up all 3 pens. I've done some writing with them. And one of them I had an interesting challenge, which we'll discuss when we get to that one. So I just wanted to go through a little bit of the aesthetics. I think you can see how that wire clip is just wrapped around on the top of the cap there. This plug is probably pushed in to hold it in place. Then you have that cap liner, which fits very well with the bottom of the section, so that's definitely going to be a good seal there. The rest of the pen is pretty generic. I looked through my 599s and I don't have a clear one left anymore. I've given them all away. I do have some of the solid colors and the metal versions. This is a very secure snap clip on the cap. Probably loosen up over time, but it's certainly nice and tight when you get it, and that's on all 3 of them. It has that classic Lamy section with the sculptured out of it, which is not my favorite, but these are pens I'm not going to be writing with for long periods of time. This is the 0.7 So we're going to start with that one. I got ink on my fingers because I was doing a lot of work on these pens preparing for the video. So my first impression with this nib is it's nice, much nicer than I expected. It's not soft at all, but it's very smooth, nice consistent ink flow. I mean, this will work perfectly for what I would call a medium nib. So this first pen we wrote with, very nice. This is the 1.1, and this one I did a lot of work on. For some reason, when I filled it up, it blobbed ink. I've checked to see that the converter was securely inserted, and it is. And these converters fit very tight, so they're not going to be coming loose on you. I only put a little bit of ink in these, but I did my 3 fills just to make certain we got a good flush there and got rid of all the water and soap that was left in there. This nib is very soft. So after playing around with it, I noticed it was a little bent, something I could have done. So I worked on it, and eventually I got it to where I think it should be. So this is even smoother than the 0.7. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that it has a wider contact with the paper. So with the same pressure, it's going to feel smoother. I mean, this really glides. I just impressed. And I also was impressed with the other ones. As you can see, it does do a nice horizontal and vertical line differential, and this really also puts down a lot of ink. When I was playing around with this nib and trying to get it aligned and bend it to shape to fit the feed, when I first wrote with it, it was dry. Here we can see the 1.1 in relation to the 1.5 and the 0.7. So as you can see now, it's a much wetter pen, and it writes the way I expect it to based on the other two as reference points. Now we're going to go to 1.5, which to me is about as wide a stub as I'm comfortable using on a regular basis. Pens are very light. They don't do anything in the hand. So when I put this nib in, it's not aligned with the way the cutouts go in the section, so I need to fix that. I mean, this is a wide nib. And it's nice with that wet feed because that really lays down a lot of ink. It's more sensitive to angle than the other ones because there's a lot more material at the end of that nib. But I'm really happy with these 3 pens. Something I can definitely use for my ink reviews, which I'm way behind on. So it'll be interesting to use it. And also, for those people that want to experiment with nibs, this is a very inexpensive way of getting into different size nibs, finding out what works for you. No reason to spend a lot of money and find out it's not a nib that you like. So I hope you've enjoyed this review of some pens which I found on eBay, and I've been very happy about it, and have now filled a niche that I had. Didn't have many niches, but we filled it for pens to doing ink reviews with. So thank you for watching. Just amazing. I just impressed with these nibs, from the smoothness as much as anything, and the flow and the whole bit. So we've reached the end of this video. May you have many great, phenomenal, mind-expanding pen, ink, and paper experiences. Enjoy, explore. Have a great day. Until next time, bye.